Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for joining this seminar. And happy new month to everybody here. Today, the 1st of February, 2023, we'll be having the first webinar of the year 2023. And it's titled A New Way Towards Achieving Fraud Prevention in the year 2023. I have with me people that will be assisting in dissecting this topic. In the course of our discussions. I have Joyce. Please, Joyce, can you go ahead and introduce yourself and your role during this webinar?
Hi, thank you, Alex. My name is Joyce, and I'm the moderator for this webinar.
Thank you
for
very much.
having me.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joyce. Mr. OJ, please, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Ochuku Obonne. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
And finally, Mr. Dami, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Damola Banjalavi. Thank you for having me, Alex.
Thank you very much, guys, and welcome. Let's move ahead. So for the purpose of this webinar, I would like to discuss the challenges of fraud and identity verification. Would like to understand the aspects of financial fraud and ways to tackle it with telecommunication data, and also would like to proffer solutions to fraud and identity verification. Please do move to the next two slides. Fraud is simply an act with an intention or deception of gaining unfair or due advantage over another person or organization. This mostly results in the person or the organization losing either her piece or her property or their finances or whatever they are able to lose through a fraudulent act. This can be done through identity thefts, check forging, granting of unauthorized loans and credits, or posting fictitious credit scores to gain those loans, fraudulent transfers and withdrawals. And there are several of them. I can't go into listing them all right now. I have some numbers to depict the challenges of fraud right here. According to the NDIC, the total amount lost from bank fraud and forgery cases was about 120.79 billion in the year 2020. Such a huge amount. And also the number of cases of fraud has grown from 52,754 in 2019 to 146,883 in 2023, is about 300% increase. And this has particularly been from the digital and electronic payment systems. CGAP, which is a non-governmental organization in the US that empowers poor people through creating financial services, also have stated that between 2016 and 2020, the share of fraudulent transactions via mobile apps alone has increased by about 34%. And finally, according to NIBS, that's Nigerian Interbank Settlement System, between 2019 and 2020, overall fraud attempts has grown by about 187%. Over time, different methods have been adopted to curb fraud, ranging from knowledge-based authentication, credit bureau authentication, two-factor authentication, the Wangiri fraud prevention, which is employed to handle call fraud, and the biometric verification to protect logins. All these have been in place, but the rate of fraudulent transaction has still been on the rise. On the new ways we've been talking about to achieve fraud prevention, we have a service that counters fraud or fraudulent activities. This service makes use of a special algorithm and telecommunication data to check and flag fraudulent transactions. With this service, we're able to give a risk level, or we're able to provide a risk level on each transaction to aid our client's decision to either approve a transaction or subject the transaction to further review and verification. Also, banks and fintechs can query this service to verify the authenticity of the initiator of whatever transaction that is about to take place. Also, in addition to the fraud prevention and the service, there are also ways to handle identity thefts or identity verification. Imagine a situation where someone steals my personal information. They can make withdrawals, purchases, and whatever. They can do stuff, recharge their phone from my account. And more dangerously, they can go as far as using my personal information to get loans and leave me viable for all the charges. That will cause a whole lot of problems for me if my identity gets stolen. And to help combat this, we have a simple check that can be done on the telco database to verify the details provided by the clients from their customers who have initiated a transaction request. So with this, once they check, they can verify the information that was provided to them by the client against the information the client has provided to the telco to match and see, oh, this person is lying or this person is saying the truth. At this point now, I'll want to hand it over to Joyce, our moderator. She will be taking questions and handling the discussions between Mr. OJ and Mr. Damilola. Please, Dami, can you go ahead? Oh, Joyce, can you go ahead? Sorry.
Thank you, Alex, for this wonderful presentation around new way towards achieving fraud prevention. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for making our time to be part of this webinar. And then moving to the Q&A section, I have Mr. Dami and Mr. OJ with me here. So I'll be going with my first question here with Mr. OJ. Mr. OJ, I have a question for you. My question is, with the rampancy of financial fraud, do you think that we like as a fraud prevention solution provider are keeping up with the current trends of this for fraud prevention service? Do you think providers for fraud prevention are keeping up with the current trend? I would like to hear your opinion on this. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Joyce. Actually, based on the statistics and the numbers Alex called out when he was giving his presentation, and some other ones that I've also gone through. So, like I have a publication in Punch that says, in a Punch newspaper, that says that every year the finance sector records losses in billions. And then, according to NIBS report, the volume of fraud the volume of fraud that has been carried out has increased about 4 times between 2019 and 2021. And so with that, I don't think we are actually catching up with the trend, because if we're actually doing that, we would have been able to curb some of this, but we see it is continually increasing. And these guys are not even resting at all. For any little loophole they see, they tend to take advantage of it and do all these things. And this is actually because there has been so much rise in the use of the mobile devices. We have a lot of people now using mobile devices. There has been so much increase in fintech apps. The cashless policy in the country is also aiding them, because we now have a whole lot of things online. And one of my boss then will always tell me that one advantage of being online is that everybody is online. And one disadvantage is that everybody is also online. And when people are online like that, we have a whole lot of loopholes that can be taken advantage of. So in conclusion, I don't think we are actually meeting up to the trend. So that's it.
Okay, thank you for that. You said, so is there any reason do you have maybe a reason why we are not meeting up with the trend? You said we are not actually meeting up with the trend of this fraud prevention. Do you think that there are some things we need to do to meet up with this current trend?
So yes, there are. Like when Alex started, one of the major things that we can use, one thing that we can use is data. Now, when everybody is online, we have data flying around here and there, and taking advantage of that data, we will be able to do this. But you know how difficult it is. Actually very difficult to get this data. It's actually difficult, but what we need to do this is just that. So if you can get the necessary data and take care of the right algorithm, or come up with the right algorithm to curb this, we'll be able to meet up with this. And not just that, we also need to invest more in our R&Ds, research and development, so that we'll be ahead of these people. Because actually what we are trying to build is, how do we put this? We were not too proactive in this. This kind of things has already started. Then we noticed that this is happening, and then we'll be able to deport. If we're able to invest in R&Ds and research and development, and so when a new technology comes out, we should be ahead to find out this thing that is out, what are the disadvantages? How can people take advantage of it? And we block it even before we start doing that. So
okay,
that's my take on it.
Okay, thank you for that wonderful response. So for us to be able to meet up with the current trend, we need access to the data, which they said data is everything. Okay, thank you for that. My next question will be going to Mr. Dami. Mr. Dami, I have a question for you, and the question is, with issues around privacy, won't there be an issue posed around sharing customers' personal information to corporations? With this whole data privacy, do you think won't there be an issue around sharing customers' personal information to corporations, organizations as well?
Yes, for sure. There are definitely legitimate concerns around sharing customer information. You should be quite concerned about how it gets be handled by corporations. And so from the corporation side of things, it's very important that companies actually have strong data policies in place to ensure that they actually handle data properly, and they also follow the right channels. In other words, they obtain customer consents and also show transparency by declaring exactly what the information will be used for and how it's be managed and how it's be destroyed, things like that. Exactly. That comes back to the data policy. And also the idea also with companies also is about collecting the minimum number of information minimum amount of information that they need for them to be able to identify and verify them. Part of the reason why this is good is that it's also in the event of data leaks as well. It's a part of one of the ways that companies can check leaks in terms of like amount of personal data and easy identification of people in the event. Obviously, we hope that data leaks don't happen, but they are a possibility. And so we have to companies have to account for that when they're designing their data policy and things like that. So on that end, so obviously use of encryption with how the data is stored in their databases and having fail safes in those kind of situations as well is important. On the customer end, it's also good that customers are kind of up to date with regards to understanding very clearly their rights around data and obviously around whether or not the company is showing ethical behavior in terms of the data they're asking for and how they're collecting and using it and storing it.
Okay, thank you, Dami, for that answer. So every customer has to give a consent before every customer's information is pushed out there. Thank you for that. My next question, sorry, before I go to the next questions, for the attendees, if you have any questions or any concern, there you can always drop it at the comment section. And as panelists are making justification to these questions, your questions will also be treated. So feel free to drop any of your questions at the comment section. The next question is going to Mr. OJ. Mr. OJ, I have this question for you. What are the different problems around accessing this data? You said number one, the first question was that the first thing is having access to this data. So what are the different problems around having access to this data to make fraud prevention service available?
All right, thank you, Joyce. So because this data are like personal data, they are not just easily available for everybody. It's not open. So there are regulations, there are licenses that you need to get for you to have access to that data or to the data. And there are also a lot of legal documentations, and that actually takes a whole lot of time for you to gain access to that data. Then secondly, the data that we also have, how is it of standard? Is it standardized? Is it cleaned up enough? Can it give us what we actually want? So we have a whole lot of data everywhere that are not cleaned up. We have data that we have repeated data. I can remember somebody was even telling me that there are some people who have like multiple, what's it called? BVS. Okay, so let me just give you an instance. People are tying their SIM cards to their NIN, right? And don't be surprised if you also go there to the database, you see somebody having two NIN numbers tied to different phone numbers so that they can use it for data activities. So now, even if we have access to that data, are they actually cleaned up? Are they standardized? Are they like relevant enough to give us what we actually need to be able to cope this? Then also how available is the data? So now, if the data are also scattered everywhere, so you have them in different companies or different organizations holding a particular data, you need also a way to what we call it, to bring this together, bring that data together, which is can also be quite difficult, because Now, most of the decisions that need to be made to prevent fraud are actually decisions that, some of them are decisions that you need to make at the spot. Now, if you need to make that decision at the spot, and then you need to get data from different sources, clean them up, and that might actually take some time. So these are some of the challenges, even when the data is available. Is it readily available? Is it something that you can make a decision right on the spot? Do you still need to do a whole lot of cleanups to be able to use them and all that? So these are some of the challenges we have on access to data.
Okay, I don't know, thank you for that, Mr. OJ. Mr. Dem, I don't know if you have any inputs around these questions around the challenges that are facing with getting this data.
Yeah, as Mr. Aja said, obviously, on the one hand, obviously access, and because obviously different data points that could be useful to be cross-referenced to in different locations, and being able to aggregate all that data is important for any kind of check. And to his point as well, aggregation is good, but it's only good depending on the completion of the database and the actual accuracy of it. So in theory, obviously, the larger data sets you have and the ability to cross-reference other data sources is the best way to kind of reduce fraud. But obviously, if those data sets are not completed or they have inaccuracies in them, that will also mean that their ability to solve these issues are limited.
Okay, so I have a question for you. What benefit did information from telcos have over the other means of identity verification? So we're talking about the telco data. So what other means of identity verification are the benefits of the information from telcos have over the other fraud prevention service that has been put in place initially?
Yes, so in terms of the benefit of telco, like I had mentioned before, the big benefit of getting access to telco data is the access to large data sets. So you have like things like name, address, phone number, like all stored in one location. So you have the ability to do a more sophisticated identity verification process than you would with standard individualized identity verification, perhaps like if you're using either BVN or just a name or just using one-time password, for example. So that data set, and as I mentioned earlier, the cross-referencing of that data set through aggregation with other data sets allow you to actually be able to identify with a strong certainty that somebody is to achieve who they say they are, because we can check if the information that they have here matches the information that they have here and things like that. And so ultimately, that's what gives telco data sets superiority over other data sets. Again, obviously, the caveat, as I said before, with regards to the actual completion nature of the data set and the accuracy of the information within the data set as well.
Thank you for that. But I have a burning question, because most times we're talking about organizations and how they're able to do fraud prevention. I have just a question for an individual that wants to have like a fraud. What steps can anybody can take, either Mr. OJ or Mr. Dami? What steps can an individual take to prevent fraud prevention from their own side? With everything that is going on, what steps or the actions that individuals can do to prevent all these fraud prevention that is happening with our mobile phones and every other? What are the things an individual can do?
Okay, there is a lot, but let me just mention maybe one or two. The first is we actually need to be informed. We need information. We need to know what to do and when to do them. One of those days, I remember one of my junior friends, after his youth service, he saved up, he had one of his accounts that has 20,000 naira in it. And so he opened his mail. We were in the same office. I didn't know what he was doing. So he just opened up his mail and saw a link on the mail from a bank. So the bank actually cloned the website. So the people just cloned the bank website and sent him a link, and he clicked on that link. And without saying anything and without doing any check, he entered all his card details. And the next thing he had, he received a debit alert that the money in his account has been cleared. And he wanted to. So, and I was like, why did we even do that without even asking questions? Number one thing that he was supposed to look at was what's it called? The SSL certificate. There was no SSL certificate on that website. So it wasn't HTTPS, it was just HTTP, and he entered this values. And then who would actually ask you to send all those details just to verify something, including your PIN? Nobody will ask you for your PIN for anything at all. So that's number one. And then for your passwords also, many of us write passwords down. And we use one password across board, so which means when these guys are doing their social engineering, they just get one hold of your password and they have access to all your accounts. And so it is wrong to have one password for all your different accounts. Just have one for one account, and if possible, change it. So there are some of our applications we use in the office that which kind of enforces the users to change their passwords after what's it called? After a couple of months, maybe 2 or 3 months, you'll be asked first to change your password. And so we tend to use anything that we can remember. And these are the things that they just look at you and they figure out that this thing can actually be this person's password. So we need to be careful how we choose passwords, be informed, and also be careful with our devices, because when they get hold of your device, before you can do anything, it might also actually be too late. So those are the ones I can.
Okay, that's fine. I think for someone like me that like maintaining one password for mostly all my account, because it's easier to remember. So I shouldn't keep one password for multiple accounts. I should be able to have different password, so that even if anything should happen, it's not easier for someone to easily get access to my device or my accounts. Thank you very much for that. For that feedback. Mr. Dami, do you have any input on this? Sorry.
Yeah, so just obviously, as Mr. Alge has mentioned, the implementation of frequent changes to your password and not using a single password across board for everything is a good way to manage your password. Obviously, you can also employ password managers to help managers, because I know that the reason why people use one password across is because they don't want to forget and keep having to do password reset every time they want to access information. So using our password managers, especially ones that have high level encryption, is also a good way to help with that as well. I know there's also been the rise of creating virtual cards that will allow you to deposit a short amount of money. So that way you don't actually use your main card in transactions on different websites. You have a virtual card that has a certain amount of money. So in the worst case scenario, data leak happens and you get access to that card, there's a limitation on how much money they can get from it. So that's also another option for people if they're trying to reduce any risk of credit card or debit card fraud with their card.
Okay, thank you for that. I know that the audience are picking things from everything that the panelists are saying. So my next question is going to Mr. Dami. Mr. Dami, my question for you is, what other aspect of fraud, what are other aspects of fraud that could be tackled with this data set? That we have, what other aspects of fraud can this new data set tackle?
I mean
Okay. Let me take that. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay. So apart from, okay, so one of them is the identity theft. Okay, I think the identity theft is the one we are talking about more. Another one is the theft of your device. If your device is stolen, they can actually use that against. They can use everything, have access to all the data you have on your phone, and use it to make requests. There is also this other one. I tried to. It's called the caller ID spoofing, where somebody calls you, but it doesn't show the details of the original caller ID. They set it to show whatever they want to show, and that can also be used for fraudulent activities. And that's with the telco data can also be checked. There's also a SIM swap fraud where somebody gets numbers that get recycled, and then somebody gets that new number and can also use it for fraudulent activity based on who owned that particular number before. Okay, so I think those are that. And there's so many other ones that I can't really call their names exactly, but I think the major ones that is actually that identity theft, where they get hold of any of the numbers. So I've seen a whole lot of people even using somebody's phone number to take loans. They use somebody's phone number, they use it to take loans, and somebody uses your own phone to also do some other things, and then they will think it is you. I've seen a situation where somebody also used a friend's phone number to, gain access to the mobile app, the banking app, and was able to withdraw a whole lot of money that ran into millions. And she didn't know about it. Went to the bank to complain, and when it was traced, the bank found out that it was actually done from her phone, and it might be somebody who is close to her that has done such a thing. So these are some of the things that, some of the frauds that people can carry out that can be prevented with the telco data.
Okay, thank you for this wonderful response. I have my questions for Dami. My question is, are our telco data set different or even better than the existing fraud prevention solutions we have? So we are talking about the new telco. We are talking about the telco data set that we have. Are they different from or even better than the existing fraud prevention solutions that we put in place previously?
Yes, as I explained, so I'll just touch on it as well. The ability to have access to a large amount of data points on a particular person, and then take those data points and then cross-reference them in across different other data sources, whereby the same person is being used, and actually be able to see, does the information match? That ability gives the telco data set a superiority to more regularly used fraud prevention services. Obviously, I always caveat to the accuracy and the completeness of the data set in telco sets, but in principle, yes, they have the ability to be superior to current fraud prevention methods.
Okay, so I have some questions on the comment section. So either Mr. OJ or Mr. Dami can actually answer this question. The first question is there a centralized government repository for all these different kinds of, for example, the bank data, the telco data, driver's license, criminal history, etc.? Is there any centralized government repository for these different data sets that we have available?
We don't. Let me not even say I don't think we have. We don't. That's actually the reason why I was also explaining and talking about the issues we have with data. I talked about this data being everywhere. So we have different organizations holding their own data, and for you to be able to make an informed decision, you need to, collect this data, clean them up, and then make a decision out of it. But no, we don't. We don't have any centralized government repository. In fact, we have even some government organizations having two kinds of identifications, like BVN and NIN. Two different things from the same government. Why not just make them one? And then the banks have their own data domiciled in their own systems, and the telcos the same. Driver's license by the VIO, and they also have theirs, and then all these things, they are not. We don't have a centralized system data repository by the government. We don't.
Okay. So I think Mr. Dami, do you have any input on this?
No, so as Mr. Aja said, the reason why we have to do a lot of cleaning up is because there's no centralized one. So we have to aggregate data from different sources to be able to do some of these checks.
Okay, so the next question from the comment here is, how is SCORE able to enhance telco data to prevent fraud? How is SCORE able to enhance telco data to prevent fraud? Okay, so Alex's hand is up. Alex, you.
I know I'm just the host, but I wanted to take a crack at this question. So what CORE is able to do to harness all this data is one major ability that we aggregate everything from whatever source it is. We can gather everything, put it in one place, and everybody that needs access can come through us to get that information, whatever information you're trying to get. So how this data can be harnessed, the fraud prevention is one of them. There are several other services that can be built just by creating algorithms and using those information available. So like I said, the major point that we have here is that we can aggregate the data. Somebody asked them if there is a unified position on all the data. We can be that unified position. We can get everything from everybody, keep it in one place. So it doesn't matter what check you want to make. It doesn't matter what you want to find out. All you just need to do is come here and say, oh, I need this. And we're able to give you that response.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Thank you. So Core is able to harness this data, make fraud prevention, fraud data available. Okay, so the next question is if a person who tries to do a transaction is found to be fraudulent, so a person who tries to do a transaction is found to be fraudulent, is there a feedback loop that flags that person's record in the database?
Okay, no, okay, sorry, Dami, you want to answer or should I go on?
You can go on.
All right, so no, there is nothing to flag it. Actually, what our system does is not to like directly tell you that this is a fraudulent transaction or it is not a fraudulent transaction, like outrightly. So we do a kind of scoring to that shows the possibility of that transaction being fraudulent. So let me say if it is between 1 and 5, where we tell you that 5 means it is real, like fraudulent. So it is now left for the consumer of the service to make the decision based on the rating that we have given that that transaction. So because we don't want a situation where, like we've mentioned, that this data is not centralized. We pull it from different places, and so we also want it to be like real time. So we don't want like flagging things. So when those transactions come, we see them and we're able to tell you that, okay, this looks fraudulent based on the numbers between 1 and 5. And then you now make your decision based on that. But we don't want to kind of like tell you directly that it is fraudulent or it is not, so that you can make the decision based on the response you get from the service. So we don't have a place where we just save it and tell you or give a feedback to tell you that this person's record is that this person is fraudulent and maybe blacklist the person. That's a kind of thing that we can actually look into in the future. But for now, no, we don't have that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. OJ. Mr. Dami, do you have any input or any additional comment on this?
Yes, so like Mr. Oja said, so what we do is that we're reporting risk levels. So we're analyzing the information that is provided to us, and we're preferring a risk level based on risk factors. And so that's what the system is designed to do. We are saying based on these risk factors, this person has a high chance, like the score, essentially. So the system works in that kind of sense. It works based on analyzing and providing risk factor based on the information that we provided, and so we analyze that. So that's how the system works.
Okay, thank you for your responses. At this point, I don't think I've been able to make a justification to all the question and answer that we have. Thank you, Mr. OJ. Thank you, Mr. Dami, for providing answers to all the questions that we have, all our burning questions that we have. So we at Core has make some services and solutions available for fraud prevention service using this so-called data set. So Core has a platform. Okay, so thank you everyone once again for paying attention and listening to the responses that was given. So Core have a platform. We have a solution already on that makes that you can query and get information on fraud prevention. So we have a platform known as All Number Query, and we have a platform known as NQ, which is All Number Query, where you can easily get access to information. And then organization also can also query a platform and get access to this information. So what happened here is, let's say banks, fintechs, and non-banks organizations queries integrate to us using different channels. We have the API, we have the NOM, we have the HTTP, we have the FTP, HTTP, and then we have the the FTP. So what happens here is the service providers request integrate us using these channels, and core is able to make requests featuring the number that has been provided already to the telcos using these various channels that the provider has made the request on. So the operators, that is the telco operators, now make a request to the customer, getting a consent from them. So once they get a consent from the customer releases a consent of their information, the telco gets back to the operators to say, oh, okay, the customer has given back a consent. So they send back the information, use these various channels that have been provided to call, which is us, and then we'll analyze those information as well and provide a risk rating level for them. And then the customer is able to make a decision. That is the banks, the financial institutions, and non-bank organizations be able to make decision based on information that has been provided and then respond back to the customer's information. So this is basically what Core has put in place to using the telco data set that we have available to prevent fraud in 2023. So at this point, I want to thank everyone once again for being part of this webinar. I'll be handing over to Alex. Alex.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. It was great having you all here and listening to us answer questions that may have come up. I want to leave you all with a few words before we go. We need to understand, like Mr. Oji had said earlier, that these people that carry out these fraudulent activities, they won't stop. They will keep trying, they will keep innovating, they will keep making moves just to get undue advantage over people. And it's up to us in the industry to just try and innovate always to get solutions that can tackle them. If you have further questions or you have any inquiries that you want to make about our services, you can reach out to us at sales@core-tech.com. I'll go again, sales@core-tech.com. We will be always available to answer you and give you responses and give you the information that you require to, further handle whatever fraud situation you may have, whatever challenges you may have about informations and all that. We want to thank you so much for spending time with us and listening to us. And we will reach out, or we will be here again shortly to have further discussions on other topics. Thank you very much for your time, and let's all have a nice day.